Okay, so I totally haven't already filmed this video and then realised that my microphone wasn't fucking plugged in, so this is take 2 and my battery is on low, so let's try and get this done really quick. Alright everyone, so basically I wanted to talk about this topic for a long time now, but I haven't really come up with the right way of doing it, and I also didn't want it to come across as me being one of those angry teenagers that just hate school and shit like that. So I'm actually going to be talking about the Gcse system today and my kind of views on what they've done with it that really has fucked it up, and just to try and give some like coverage to those of you who either don't know a lot about it and sort of wondering what other people think of it, and also to parents are kind of like need a better understanding of it. So I just want to clear up really quickly, I don't hate school in any way. I actually enjoy going to school. I like my teachers, I love the social side of it and things like that, so I have no problem with school whatsoever. I just really hate the GCSE system. So basically, for anyone that doesn't know what GCSEs are, they're basically a set of exams that kind of dictate what you're going to do in the future. I know, stupid, but it's just what happens over here. So I'm going to be talking about the exam board that I'm sitting all my exams under, which is AQA. There are other exam boards, but this is the one that I'm talking about right now. So the traditional grading system of A to F, it was before, is now gone. It's been abolished in maths and English. This is the only two topics I'm going to be covering today, is maths and English. And it's now gone to a 1 to 9 grading system, 9 being the equivalent to the old A star, and then 1 being equivalent to like an F, kind of like a UF type thing. Which, first of all, let me just clear up, that had no point. Like, I don't know what the point at all was doing. That was now, and my way of looking at it is, any old-fashioned type of businesses that you're trying to get a job at is going to be more confused as to what a 5 is as opposed to what a B is. So I'm going to go through subject by subject, maths and English, and just sort of say my little views on what they've done to change it and why it's really messed it up. So on an overall, they have taken the original exams that were working perfectly fine, and they've taken the difficulty and just gone and raised it up really high. So the first topic I'm going to talk about is maths. Now maths, what they've done is they've basically taken the questions from the old A-level papers and they've brought them down into GCSE, which first of all is completely stupid, as for A-level you technically have 2 more years to prepare before you would take that maths exam, so we're cutting out 2 years of education worth, bringing that down into the GCSEs, which you do sit at the age of 15 and 16 as opposed to 17, 18. So there's a huge difference there in what they've done to make them more difficult. So maths here in the UK is split up into 2 different papers. You do the foundation paper, which is the slightly easier paper, or the higher tier paper. So on the higher tier paper you can achieve anything from an A star all the way down to an F, and on foundation paper you can achieve anything from an F up to a C. Now foundation is significantly easier than higher, but you do need more marks to get that C, if that makes sense. So kind of how that works. On the new spec of papers, 4 to 5 is roughly a sort of C. They don't actually know the grade boundaries yet, so like it's actually undecided what that grade is, which is kind of stupid in my mind. But basically what they're predicting is that a level 4 is going to be the sort of average C, as a low C, and a 5 is a high C. So the highest you can get on the foundation is a level 5, as opposed to a level 9, which you can get on the higher tier paper. So also in this is in my school and most schools across the UK, we have things called sets. You put in different sets based on your ability. We have sets 1 to 5 at my school. Set 1 being the top tier, so that's smarter people. Set 2 is kind of like that overfilled set 1 is my kind of best way of describing it. Like you're not quite top, but you're still doing the higher paper and you're in set 2. Set 3 is you're not the best at maths. Set 4 you're pretty bad at maths, and set 5 you're fucked with maths. Not literally. I mean, what's happened for years before is people in top set take the higher tier, people in the second set take the higher tier, then it goes 3, 4, 5 take the foundation tier. However now, because these new GCSEs have been made so much harder, people in the second set are being moved onto foundation. I mean, I know in my school that over half, I think it's way over half of the year, are on foundation paper for maths now. So what does that kind of like mean? So basically, students that were previously getting on the last set of GCSEs, on the last generation set, people that were getting Bs, for example, in like second set, will now be getting a C or a 5 on the foundation tier of papers. That isn't necessarily a problem because they are technically the same grade, if you like. But in my mind is the way a business is going to look at it. When you're applying for a job, right, and they're looking for someone, so the person that took last year's exams, they have written down on their thing a B because they were in second set and they were able to take the higher tier paper. So he's got a B. Now someone with the same mathematical ability, but took the foundation paper because the higher tier was just slightly too difficult, got top marks on the foundation but come out with a 5, which which businesses will know is a C. So like the B and the C, this person looks smart even though they are the exact same ability. So that's where that sort of thing really messes people up. Another thing with what they've done with the papers now is, another thing that they've done with maths to make it harder is they've taken out, they no longer give you the equations in the papers. So for example, like the quadratic equation, things like that, which would have previously been given at the start of all the maths papers. I think they're either at the start or throughout, I'm not too sure. But anyway, they were in there. They've now been taken and you're expected to know them off the top of your brain. So they've really gone to memory-based testing, which you'll really see reflected when I start talking about English in a minute. So again, what this has done is this has taken the focus on knowing knowing what to do and put it of how to do. It's a really stupid way that they've changed it around, and it's a real pointless change. But it just adds more pressure and more things that you have to try and remember in a way to answer a question and to answer the questions. So yeah, that's kind of like my thing with maths over and done with. I think that they've really messed up the maths thing, and they haven't thought about it properly for people in future careers. And to be fair, if you're interested in trying, type in 2017 math papers and you'll see just like the difference and how difficult they are now as opposed to the older ones. So I'm gonna move on to English now. English is one of those ones where I'm personally not very good at English, so it might say that I'm coming across quite biased because I don't really like the subject, but I'm going to keep it as level and as fair as possible. So the way English works is we study and we are examined on 3 different books, 2 plays and 1 novel, and then we also study 15 poems from an anthology. Previously, in like previous exams, these poems, these 15 poems and the 3 books, you were given a copy of the text in the exam. So this text was to refer to throughout. Same with the poems, it's just to refer to without, they have no help or they don't provide any help, they just provide leeway off of your mind because it's one less thing that you have to remember. So how English is actually marked, and I believe I am correct in saying this, if I am wrong do let me know, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct on this one. English is not marked on your knowledge, it's marked on how you answer the question. So how you structure your questions and like the techniques, the words that you use. For example, picking out key themes from a text, etc. like that. That is what you're marked on. You're marked on what you write down, not what you know. So now taking these texts away, which is what they've done in the new exams, because you're no longer allowed the text in the thing. You're now made to learn and remember these three books and 15 poems, which is a lot to remember. So by doing it this way, what's actually like changed here, because the difficulty in English really has not raised. The questions are exactly the same and there's no foundation or higher tier or anything like that. The grade boundaries are pretty much the same. So like they haven't changed the difficulty at all, really. But what they've done is they've made you remember things. So again, it's memory-based testing. This is what they seem to be bringing in now, and I could be wrong here, but to me this is just what it seems like they're bringing in, is this whole concept of memory-based testing. To me that's not a accurate reflection on someone's skill. To put it into like a real life example, let's say you were an IT technician, something like that, and someone gave you their broken laptop, right? If you didn't know how to fix that off the top of your head, you're going to go onto Google, you're going to use your natural instinct to read a source to find out how to do that, and then apply what you've taken from that source to the problem. That's kind of the best way of looking at like English, and you're going to fix it and you're going to take it back. You're not going to go, sorry, I do not know how to do this in my brain, here you go, have it back. You know, you're going to find part of doing something is finding how to do it. You know, that's part of it. So the fact that they've taken these books away doesn't prove anything for later life skill, and it also doesn't prove that you're smarter or anything like that. It just means that people with a photographic memory have a huge win over people that really struggle to memorize things. So yeah, this has messed people up, and the problem what this thing does is, and it's true, it stresses people out so much because they now have to remember all of these things, you know. Because if they don't know what to put in the answer, they can't form the answer. And forming the answer is how you get the marks. So not only now do you have to learn how to form the answer, you now have to learn what to put in your answer, which is ridiculous. It's pointless because you're not marked anymore on what you put in your answer. I think I said that right. Yeah. It's a really silly system because all it is actually doing is just putting more stress, and basically people are prioritizing what they need to remember as opposed to the techniques. I think I'm putting that right. Because the ability to learn 15 poems is pretty unrealistic for a 15-year-old, especially when your brain isn't fully developed, and also our attention span span is like a maximum of 20 minutes. So the fact to sit there for a 2 hour and 50-minute exam and you're meant to be able to constantly stream out knowledge is just unrealistic and, to be quite frank, quite barbaric. So yeah, that's my views on the maths and English. I probably missed out some really key points here, but you know, I'm sure you can find some other teenager that's crying about their exams to fill in you with that. Okay, quick. So before my battery dies, let's talk about the effect that this is having on students and teenagers. Making these exams so much harder is essentially taking people's stress levels from a good amount of stress to an unhealthy amount of stress. And moving to this unhealthy amount of stress then kills motivation. It makes people unmotivated to want to do well. People just kind of give up, and that is just a true fact. You can look around. I've actually been called, my year group, my school, have actually been called one of the most laid back year groups for taking GCSEs. And it's not, we're not actually laid back, we've just given up, you know, and we seem to be marked under this lazy stamp. When we're not being lazy, we've just given up. Like, our brains are full. You know, there's only a certain amount of knowledge your brain can take and remember, and the government are exceeding that limit quite heavily with these new exams. The way that they want us to learn more, and just their memory-based testing is just exceeding the limit of what the average person can take in. For you, people with a photographic memory, it's just a win-win for you, innit? Because all you got to do is glance at someone and read over it a few times. But for the other ones without, yeah, it kind of really messes you up. At this point now, in the exams, bearing in mind my exams officially start on Monday, so in 2 days' time, you should be revising 24/7. However, people just aren't motivated to want to revise because these exams are so hard, so difficult, that it almost tells your, well, it's your brain, the voice in your brain is telling you, okay, a little bit unrealistic, I'm not going to learn all this in time, what's the point in trying? And it's not us being unable to do it, it's the fact that we're just so unmotivated to do it. And it's one of those things now where they've made it so hard that it doesn't feel achievable. And I think that's the best way of saying it. Like, these high grades, like an A star, which used to be achievable by quite a handful of students, is no longer achievable. That C that was achievable for the average to get people through school and to move on to a business life, now becoming unachievable, and it's unmotivating people, and it's the reason why people are so slummed, depressed at the moment, and people just aren't enjoying their school life, which really you should be enjoying despite working very, very hard. So yeah, that's kind of my views on it. I'm not completely against GCSEs, but I really think that this new system, this whole memory-based thing, is really unfair and fucked up. Let me know what you think about it in the comments, etc. I'll be quite interested to hear what other people's views are. And I kind of made this video not as a rant because I'm one of those teenagers that's bitching and crying that I got to do work. I'm not, I actually enjoy work and things like that, but I kind of wanted to bring this to light, especially to parents that think that their kids are just slumping out and being lazy. They're not. The exams are now ridiculously harder as opposed to the ones that you took. Say the average parent is roughly 40, something like that. The difficulty that has changed over that time has gone from like here to way above here. I'd like to actually, if you can, go online and get a 2017 paper and just have a flick through some of the questions and just try and comprehend the amount of knowledge we're expected to learn. And just do keep in mind that sometimes revision all the time is unhealthy. Yeah, just give your kids some leeway. Just appreciate that these are some of the hardest tests that they'll take in their life, and they're also ones that we're apparently meant to believe that if you don't get the best grades, you're fucked for the rest of your life, which isn't true. You can get anywhere with hard work and determination. And now I've gone into a completely different topic, so I'm going to stop here. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you do want to support me, if you could share the video, I'd really appreciate that. Let's try and get this trending around a little bit. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all very soon. Good luck with GCSEs, and goodbye. Fuck the government.